Part 39. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhong Dai Shang. Chapter 381. Well, let's start the mission. Rain, the majestic coterie waved her arms and gave the order. Understood, Commander Murasame nodded seriously, then stood up, walked to the computer aside and turned on the monitor. This is. Both Yayu and Itsuka Shiori were stunned at the same time. The cutely designed text of Ratatoskr appeared on the screen. Then, to the sound of pop songs, beauties, young girls, and girls with brightly colored hair appeared on the screen in order, and the logo "Let's Fall in Love, My Little" appeared on the title. This is. Yeah. Let's play a love training game. Huh? A beautiful girl game. That's right, and it's a game specially produced by our Ratatoskr, but it's completely different from those simple games. That's not the point. Yayu's mouth twitched. Well, don't say that. This is just the first stage of training. By the way, you don't need to worry about the scale. By the way, this thing is 15 ban. Qinli once again ignored Yayu's remarks and said this. Leave it to you, I have something to do. Yayu left without looking back and pushed Wilhi Shizi forward. Hey, why do I want to play with something like this? Well, I can't say anything to Yayu, sister, don't even think about running away. Seeing Yayu escaping, Itsuka Kotori would not let go of Itsuka Shiori, who was still in a daze, and immediately ignored the opponent's resistance and screams and pressed him directly in front of the computer. I had some expectations at first, but it turns out that the kids are still messing around. Thinking of what Wilhi Kinlai said not long ago, Yayu shook his head helplessly. Fortunately, he really took it seriously not long ago. However, the dialogue elves do seem to have a certain role. At that time, it seemed that it was because of his relationship that Toa was able to stay in this world for so long, right? Just as Yayu was thinking this and walking out of the corridor, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. It was a girl with beautiful short silver white hair and a delicate face. Yayu naturally had an impression. The girl's name was Tobiichi Origami. Not only that, Yayu also knew the other party's other identity. Members of the AST vs Elf organization were another organization that advocated using force to eliminate the elves. What's the matter, Tobiichi Origami-san? Yuanyi Origami did not answer Yayu, but continued to stare at him coldly, making him feel slightly numb. Just when Yayu was about to say something, instantly and without warning, sirens rang out all around. Almost at the same time, Origami raised her head slightly. It's urgent. Goodbye. After saying that, he turned around and started running in the corridor. Why? Yayu looked dumbfounded. What on earth was going on? He walked away so inexplicably without saying a word. He remembered that he had not sinned against this girl. But can we finally meet again, Toa? Since the sirens around him kept wailing, the girl's weak and lovely posture appeared in front of Yayu's eyes involuntarily. I feel a little impatient to see you, I thought like this, and then I heard the voice of Wilhi Kinlai coming from the headset. Yayu, it's a space shock. Move to Fraxinis for now. Come back. I know, Yayu replied softly. The time is 17:20. Avoiding the eyes of the students who were beginning to evacuate, the four people moved to the Fraxinis floating above the street and directed their gaze towards the bridge screen that displayed various information. Kotori and Rain, who had changed into military uniforms, exchanged conversations and nodded meaningfully from time to time. On the screens on both sides were unfamiliar scenes. It was the beautiful girl development game that Kotori played to the two of them not long ago. Kotori, who was sitting on the captain's seat and licking a lollipop while exchanging conversation with the crew, slightly raised the corners of her mouth. Yayu and my sister, it looks like you are going to start working early. Did you have direct face-to-face contact with the elves? Will-he-shizi said so, and Kotori nodded slightly, and also slightly threatened the two of them. That's right, try your best and don't die. Hey, is it that dangerous? If Yayu has stayed with that elf, hasn't it? This also shows that the elf is not very aggressive, right? Well, that's what I said, but you also know that it's Yayu. Who knows what that elf's attitude is towards you? As he spoke, Kinlai snapped his fingers. Correspondingly, the originally abstract lines on the screen turned into clear pictures. The scene that appeared before everyone's eyes was exactly what the original school looked like, but the original campus was now in ruins. A shallow bowl-shaped depression was dug out of the school courtyard, and part of the road and negotiation were beautifully cut away, just like the scene in the city the day before. It's really lucky. Because the elves hid in the collapsed school building, the members of AST did not dare to attack for the time being. Now a subtle confrontation has formed. Looking at the scene in front of him, Kotori analyzed it carefully, got up. Such lucky situations are rare. Now it's up to you. You must contact the elves as soon as possible without being harassed by AST, and don't let them attack, Kotori said, waving the lollipop in his hand again. Then let's go, you two, the mission begins. Teleport. They were taken to a special teleportation facility, and then the figures of Yayu and Will-he-shizi disappeared from the bridge. At this moment, it was already sunset, and the ruins of the original school building in front of us looked particularly desolate and sad under the dusk. This was originally the best campus in Tiangong City, but it was a pity that it was still so powerless in the face of space earthquakes, and turned into a sad ruin like a joke. Will-he-shizi sighed with some appreciation, and then he and Yayu slowly walked into the school building along the dilapidated stairs. Hurry up, the navigation has been given to you. The elf's reaction is on the third floor above the stairs over there, in the fourth classroom from here. In the ears of the two of them, the sound of Will-he-chin rang. Learn. Will-he-shizi nodded and seemed a little nervous, while Yayu couldn't wait to see Tosyang. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 382. They had already reached the door of the classroom. As Yayu advanced step by step, Will-he-shizi on the side became more and more nervous. Seeing the girl's appearance, Yayu felt a little funny. If you are really scared, just watch from the outside. I can go in alone. It's not that I'm scared, I'm just a little nervous. I also want to help the elf so that she can live a normal life like the rest of us. Will-he-shizi said so seriously, and then took a deep look at Yayu. Let me go in first, I also want to do what I can do. Saying this, without waiting for Yayu to refuse, Will-he-shizi stepped into the classroom, and then the appearance of the classroom dyed by the sunset came into his eyes. Moment. That beautiful scene was imprinted in the girl's eyes. The fourth one from the front, the second row from the window, it happened to be Itsuka Shiori's table, and the black-haired girl wrapped in an incredible dress sat on it with one knee raised. The eyes that glowed like fantasy were half opened listlessly, staring blankly at the blackboard. The girl with half her body bathed in the sunset has a mystery that can instantly take away the thinking ability of anyone who sees her. A girl who is so perfect that it almost makes people tremble. Such a girl, such a perfect girl who can't help but feel heartbroken. Why would you hurt her? Sensing someone walking into the classroom, the girl opened her eyes and looked at Will-he-shizi. When she saw Will-he-shiori, a hint of caution flashed in the girl's eyes, because the humans who attacked her were all young girls like this. Who are you? That. Although he had been mentally prepared not long ago and had made bold words, after seeing the elf girl in front of him, Itsuka Shiori became a little afraid again. Hey, sister, what do you mean? The elf is unhappy. Just when Itsuka Shiori was talking so nervously, Kotori's dissatisfied voice sounded in her ears. Hey, are you not happy? I obviously didn't do anything. Well, there's nothing we can do about it, because you look a lot like those people from AST, so there's nothing you can do about being hostile. Then what should I do? Itsuka Shiori said in a panic, while Itsuka Kotori on the other side looked unconcerned. Don't worry, we have the most professional team here, sister, you don't have to worry at all. What you say makes me even more worried. After the conversation between Itsuka Shiori and Itsuka Kotori ended, Toa, who was sitting there, asked again. Answer my question, who are you? I have no hostility, I'm just a student of this school. Student? Indeed, you are different from those people. Toa soon discovered that Wilhi Shiori was not dangerous, and immediately returned to his lonely look. We obviously agreed to meet next time, but where are you now? What are you doing here? There is nothing here anymore. Hey, if that. Wilhi Shizi was choked again and couldn't say a word, and soon the sound of Wilhi's harp in the earphones rang again. So I've said it all, sister, you are an idiot and there's no way you can solve this problem by yourself. Please listen to me quickly. I don't want to. Are you sure it won't get worse according to what you said? Just when Wilhi Shizi and Wilhi Kinlai were noisy, Yayu, who really couldn't stand it anymore, walked in. He also wore headphones for communication, so he could clearly hear everything Hisuka Shiori and Itsuka Kotori said. I don't know how long it will take for these two girls to continue fighting like this. As expected, I still have to rely on myself. Yayu, who walked into the classroom, did not hide his intentions. He walked in so openly, and Wilhi Shizi and Toa immediately noticed his presence. Yayu. While Wilhi Shizi was still in a daze, the dark purple-haired elf girl next to her had already leaned over very excitedly, and then fell directly into his arms. I miss you so much, I really miss you. Before I saw you, I thought you didn't want me anymore. As she said that, the girl held Yayu's cheeks with her hands and looked at him affectionately. Sorry, it's my fault that I didn't come to see you right away because something went wrong. Is it this guy? Did they threaten Yayu not to let you come to see me? Toa's eyes quickly fell on Itsuka Shiori, who was staring at the girl with hostile eyes. Hey, it's not like this. Yayu, please explain it a little bit. Why are you shouting so affectionately? But before Yayu could say anything, Shixiang's eyes became even more unkind. Although she doesn't seem to have much common sense, she still knows the most basic things. Because she has a certain fondness for Yayu, although she doesn't understand it very well, the emotion called jealousy still emerges in the girl's heart. Just when Yayu thought it was interesting and funny, and planned to tease Wilhi Shizi again, suddenly, violent explosions and vibrations hit the school building. Wilhi Shiori, who didn't understand what was going on at all, immediately held onto the blackboard to support his body, so that he didn't fall to the ground. What happened? Yayu frowned and looked at the place where the attack came from high in the sky. Yayu and sister, please be careful, they are from AST, they are attacking. Then, Kotori's voice sounded from her right ear. Is it AST again? These guys are really troublesome. Yayu thought helplessly, he didn't care, but Wilhi Shizi was just an ordinary person and he had to protect her safety. Thinking like this, Yayu immediately walked over and hugged the still confused girl directly into his arms. Woo! Seeing Yayu taking the initiative to hug Wilhi Shizi, Toa pouted unhappily, while Wilhi Shizi blushed with embarrassment. Don't move. Yayu frowned slightly, and the next moment, a sharp sound sounded, the windows of the classroom shattered, and then the opposite wall was carved with countless bullet marks. It looked like a mafia fight. Wilhi Shizi, who was still a little shy, was suddenly frightened and his face turned pale. He hugged Yayu's body nervously, while Toa also showed an unhappy attitude on the other side. It's those nasty guys again. Toa spoke unhappily. Not to mention those bullets, Not even the fragments of broken glass touched her body at all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime. Chapter 383. Not only Shixiang, but also Yayu. None of the broken masonry or glass could get close to Yayu's body. This somewhat magical scene fell into Wu Shizi's eyes, making the girl full of doubts and confusion. Why is this happening? Isn't Yayu an ordinary person? It's okay, Yayu, I'll go and get rid of these nasty guys first. Shixiang, who also felt that Yayu was just an ordinary person, said this. The girl stopped in front of Yayu and looked at the sky. Her expression was full of displeasure, and she was obviously disgusted with these AST members who had disturbed her reunion with Yayu. Shixiang, Yayu called softly. Huh? Toa turned her head curiously. Can you please not hurt them? Just drive them away, Yayu said. Hey, but these guys are obviously very annoying, and they keep trying to kill me. After hearing Yayu's words, Toa pouted in displeasure. But if you want to completely integrate into this world and live a life like a normal person, then you must learn to use your power under control, Yayu explained. The reason why humans are afraid of you, and even want to kill you all because of this force. Perhaps this is the bad nature of human beings. They are always afraid of what they don't understand and what they can't control. Yayu said this and sighed helplessly. Control your own power, it might be better if you don't have this power. Toa said sadly. The barrage bombardment from the sky still did not stop, but it only hit Toa's structure. It doesn't have any effect on the protection, it just splashes gorgeous fireworks. I really think about how great it would be to live as an ordinary person without a force, Toa said, raising her hand and pointing it at the sky. The 7-colored light suddenly tilted out towards the AST members in the sky. Danger, disperse quickly. Seeing Toa's attack, there was a burst of exclamation in the sky, and then all the AST members controlled their armor and quickly dispersed. It's just that although the light wave emitted by Toa seemed to be powerful, it did not have any offensive power. It just created a strong whirlwind and then swept away all the AST members. Okay, Yayu, get rid of all those annoying guys. After seeing that there was no longer any AST member in the sky, Shixiang smiled again and threw herself into Yayu's arms. Yayu just started hugging him from left to right. Wu Shizi, who was protected by Yayu in his arms, kept blushing and dared not speak. He didn't know how embarrassed he was. What's going on with Toa? Why don't we have any information about this name? Ah, I forgot to mention it. I gave her a name when we met. I'm really impressed that you concealed such important news. Forget it, let's strike while the iron is hot and invite her on a date. Qin Li's helpless voice sounded from the headphones. A date. Although he was mentally prepared, Yayu was still slightly stunned. Well, I can't count on my idiot sister anymore. I only have to rely on you. Come on, don't let me down. You know, this is just the beginning for her to accept humans. How can you make her fall in love with you if you don't date her? No, how can she understand the beauty of this world if she falls in love with you? So for the sake of world peace, go on a date with her decisively. Itsukawa Kotori said so righteously, while Yayu looked dumbfounded. The current situation did not allow him to think too much, so he could only follow the girl's wishes. N.A. Toa. Well, raising his head slightly, Shixiang looked at Yayu. Then, that. Yayu opened his mouth. He originally wanted to say something like please go on a date with me, but the words changed when he reached his mouth. Become mine, Toa. Ha. The entire bridge was in chaos. This bastard actually said such shameless words. Kotori showed an expression of disbelief as she waved the lollipop in her hand. Elf, The elf's emotional index has begun to become abnormally chaotic, and there is no way to judge the other person's happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy at all. Yeah, you, this idiot, wouldn't have killed the game that was almost completed. All of a sudden Li stared at the screen nervously, fearing that the elf would suddenly become angry and do something out of control. Come. Shixian was obviously stunned by Yayu's words for a while, then she tilted her head cutely and bit her fingers and said, "What do you mean by this?" Wow. Suddenly, most of the nervous crew members in the entire cabin fell down. By the way, the Forgotten Elves really lack common sense. They should not be able to understand such a question, Kotori said and breathed a sigh of relief. I have to say that this guy is really brave. What does it look like? Dare to ask questions. That, well, actually means whether you are willing to be with me all the time, Yayu explained after thinking for a long time. Yes, Toa is willing. So let's go on a date together finally, Yayu said the words smoothly. Hey, what's a date? Toa said blankly, leaving Yayu speechless. This, how should I put it? Yayu, who didn't know how to define a date for a while, scratched his head again. Yayu, it's dangerous, AST is back. Just when Yayu felt in trouble, Li's voice sounded again in the headset. AST. Yayu was stunned, and immediately a violent whistle sounded in the sky. This is Tobiichi Origami. Naturally, there was no way to forget this girl who had left a deep impression on him. Yayu watched blankly as this girl who controlled a strange flying device rushed into the classroom. Instead of continuing to use the bullet-type weapon with hot fire power, Tobiichi Origami pulled out a long sword that shone brightly from the rough machine in his hand, and slashed at Toa below. These are completely useless, why don't you remember them for a long time? Toa said, who was a little unhappy because the intimacy between herself and Yayu was interrupted. She just raised her palm to resist Tobiichi Origami's attack. Attack. Brilliant fireworks burst out from where the invisible barrier intersected with the laser sword, just like high-temperature welding, scattering wantonly in all directions. If it weren't for Yayu, I would definitely kill you, Toa said angrily, and then flicked Tobiichi Origami away with a wave of his hand. Without saying a word, just clenching his teeth slightly, the origami was blown back. However, he immediately adjusted his posture and landed magnificently on the bullet-riddled floor. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 384. TCH, you hateful guys are really hard to beat. Toa, who clearly recognized Tobiichi Origami's identity, gently waved the light to stop Tobiichi Origami from attacking again. Blade's hand, while speaking with contempt. Tobiichi Origami first looked at Yayu and Itsuka Shiori on the side. When he was sure that nothing happened to the two of them, he once again cast his cold gaze on Toa's face. The laser sword in his hand moved forward again. Stubborn. Kill him fiercely, he shouted softly, and stamped the ground with his feet wearing combat boots. In an instant, the ground of the classroom rose up, and the throne appeared from it. Sister and Yayu, please retreat for now. You cannot bear the aftermath of such a battle. Kotori's voice came from the headset, but Yayu had no intention of leaving at all, and Wuhi Shizi, who was held in his arms, also showed a helpless smile. Yayu didn't want to leave, he couldn't leave even if he wanted to. Hey, what are you still doing there? Get out of the classroom quickly, it's not easy to locate here. Li's voice sounded in the headset, and the girl urged anxiously, but Yayu's steps still didn't move at all. After watching the fight between the two girls in front of him, Yayu slowly raised a hand, and immediately a chilly air quietly filled the air. Okay, you two, stop fighting. As Yayu's words fell, a solid ice wall rose from between Tobiichi Origami and Toa, separating the two people in the battle. What? Not only were the two girls in the battle slightly stunned, but even Itsuka Shiori was also startled. Isn't Yayu an ordinary human being? Why can he do such a thing? Tobiichi Origami-san, what kind of grudge do you have against the elves? Why are you so hostile to Toa? It doesn't matter to you, and why do you have such power? Are you also an elf? A male elf? The sudden change made Tobiichi Origami temporarily absent-minded, and then the girl looked at Yayu and asked him coldly. Male elf? Is this guy Yayu an elf? High in the sky, Itsuka Kotori, who had been observing the situation below, was also shocked. The energy fluctuations that burst out from below at that moment were indeed very similar to those of elves. Is it true that, as Tobiichi Origami said, Yayu is actually an elf, a male elf? Oh, what would you do if I said I was an elf? Yayu raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at the girl in front of him, who was obviously a little excited and unable to control his emotions. If so, there is nothing left to say, I will kill you. The cold declaration immediately aroused great dissatisfaction in Shixiang, but just when the girl was about to rush forward, Yayu stopped her with a wave of his hand. Toa, are you willing to listen to me? Well, if it's Yayu who says it, I'll listen to everything. Toa nodded obediently. The girl's taming of Yayu was a bit surprising, and it also strengthened Tobiichi Origami's belief that Yayu was a male elf. Only this reason can explain why the elf listens to this man so much. Remember what I said when we just met? The reason why humans are afraid of you is because of the powerful power you possess. They will be afraid of powerful and unknown existences that cannot be controlled by them, so I want to destroy you. This is the bad nature of human beings, or the natural thoughts in the hearts of humans who have been the masters for a long time. Yayu spoke so slowly, Wilhi Shizi lowered his head in silence, and although Tobiichi Origami on the other side was touched, he still coldly warned the two of them. So, what should we do to solve this problem? Yayu said this and laughed softly. He slowly raised his palms, and with his movements, both Itsukawa Shiori and Tobiichi Origami felt that they were in the classroom. A creepy feeling. Sister, get out of there quickly. I'll use the teleportation device on Fraxinus to recover you. It's been detected that extremely terrifying energy is gathering, and it's estimated to be 10 times more than the space earthquake that just happened. 10 times. Is Yayu really an elf? Wilhi Shizi came out with a look of disbelief, and the sound of Wilhi Kotori sounded in the earphone on the other side. Now is not the time to talk about this. Let's talk about Yayu's issues later. Now hurry up and escape from here. He nodded reluctantly, but Wilhi Shizi knew that he could not do anything, so he made a wise choice to leave the classroom. Just by turning around, there was an awe-inspiring cold air behind him, and then the girl's body was blown away. Okay, containment successful, with Kotori's voice, feeling the incredible suspension on his body, Itsuka Shiori was recovered by Fraxinus. Huh, feel lucky, stupid sister, otherwise I might only see you in the ice sculpture. Wilhi Shizi, who was still a little dizzy, had just come to his senses when he heard such a sentence. Although it was in a joking tone, the expression on Wilhi Kotori's face did not look like a joke at all. What happened? Well, how should I put it? The school that was originally in ruins is now like this. Take a look. As Wilhi Kotori said this, he stepped aside and showed Wilhi Shiori the picture captured by the monitor. After seeing the scene in front of him, Wilhi Shizi couldn't help but take a breath, and he understood why his sister had such a serious expression. Below, the original school area has completely disappeared, replaced by a vast white frozen city. Huge ice cones pointed straight into the sky, releasing an astonishing amount of cold air. Where's Tobiichi Origami, and those people from AST? Although he didn't want to harm the elves, it didn't mean that Itsuka Shiori was willing to see the AST, a human member, be harmed. After all, Itsuka Shiori is still a human being, and fundamentally speaking, she still stands more on the side of humans. Well, don't worry about that. It seems like he's showing mercy. Is this more of a warning? Itsuka Kotori shrugged helplessly, and the scene switched again. In the classroom shrouded in frost, Tobiichi Origami was not hurt at all, but he looked like he was working hard under the cold air. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 385. In such an attack, neither the earphones nor the micro camera were damaged. I have to say it is a miracle. Of course, this also highlights the terrifying nature of this guy Yayu. Is it scary? Why? Tisk, what an idiot. Don't you understand? Why are these things not damaged? Because Yayu controls his own power. He can control his power to such a fine level. It can be imagined that he is how terrible. Itsuka Kotori said this, and because the headset for communication was still carried by Yayu, he completely listened to the sentence. Yayu also discovered this. It seemed that after coming to this world, his control over his power had increased to a higher level. Originally, Yayu only planned to protect Tobiichi Origami and Toa, as well as several AST members in the original Sky, but he did not expect that even the micro camera was not damaged. No. It shouldn't mean coming to this world, it should mean after coming into contact with Toa. Thinking of this, Yayu couldn't help but look at the girl next to him who was watching all this with wide eyes and curiosity. So awesome. Is this ice? Are these made by Yayu? Well, this is my power, an extremely powerful power. Yayu said this, gently touched the girl's head, and then looked at the kite origami in front of him. The girl who was full of hostility not long ago is now unable to muster the slightest resistance. In the terrifying extreme cold environment, although Yayu is consciously protecting her, she really can't bear it. If it weren't for the protection of the strange armor on her body, she might have fainted from the cold. As you can see, this is my power. If I am willing, it is not difficult to turn the entire Tiangong city into a frozen dead zone in an instant. Yayu laughed softly as he said this, and Yuenyi Origami's body, which was paralyzed on the ground, couldn't help but tremble. Unlike the unstable space shock of the elves, this is a power that is completely under my control. I can use it however I want. And, I am different from Toa. Toa is like I am a child who has been bullied by you and doesn't know how to fight back, but I am different. If you anger me, even I can't imagine what the consequences will be. As Yayu said this, he shrugged helplessly and sighed, while Tobiichi Origami on the side clenched his fists out of anger. Sure enough, annihilating all the elves is the right choice. Yes, it's the right choice, but do you have that kind of power? Tobiichi Origami's angry and unwilling words completely fell into Yayu's ears. The latter smiled nonchalantly, then got close to the girl's body and pinched her chin frivolously. You are so weak and vulnerable, what nonsense are you talking about here? Do you think you are strong? What can you do? I'm sorry that you can't do anything. Not to mention me, even Toa can't do it if she is serious. I can kill you in an instant. That's right. Don't think that I'm really afraid of you. I'm just afraid of accidentally killing you. Listening to what Yayu said, Shixiang on the side spoke happily like a child whose parents came to help. Even so, I will definitely destroy you and kill all the elves. The stubborn girl said this, clenching her fists as if she planned to stand up and continue fighting. The girl's appearance gave Yayu a headache. Originally, he thought that the other party would give up and retreat, but now it seems that the girl has no such intention at all. This girl, what kind of stimulation did she receive? Such a desperate look. You are not qualified to say such things now, and you are not qualified to let me look at you. Since he had already pretended to be a villain, Yayu naturally wanted to complete the performance to the fullest. Standing up and no longer looking at Yuenyi Origami, Yayu spoke slowly. I don't know who the person behind you is and what his purpose is, but if you continue to interfere with Toa and I's normal life, I don't mind erasing the entire Tiangong city from the map. After the domineering declaration ended, Yayu and Toa left the school immediately, leaving only Tobiichi Origami collapsed there in despair. Yayu, did you say that because of me? Kindness. After leaving school, Toa, who was still laughing and chatting, suddenly asked. What's wrong, Toa? It's nothing, I just feel that you shouldn't bear all the blame for this, Yayu. It's me who can't control my own power. It's me who causes destruction and kills innocent people. Just like what she said, mine the hands are indeed stained with the blood of innocents. Toa said this with a sad look on her face. The girl hated herself for being like this, hating herself for causing huge damage with every move she made, and for letting others die casually. But Toa feels a lot of guilt, reflection, and pain, doesn't she? Why? None of this is Toa's intention. Toa is essentially a very kind girl, isn't she? So let's change everything together. The sad thing is not having power but not having power. After all, this world is a world of the jungle. The weak are bullied and the strong dominate everything. This is the law of nature since ancient times. The first thing you need to do is to hold on to your own strength and become a strong and feared person like me, so that you can survive in this world well. Become a strong person. That's right, why are AST chasing you? Because they have power, they are much stronger than ordinary humans, and the mastermind behind them must be a strong person who dominates the side. I want them to stop chasing you. Only when they become stronger enough to be able to talk to them on an equal footing will they give in. Is it like this? After all, To Xiang is not experienced in the world, and in many places his thinking mode is still like that of a child. It can be said that To Xiang is just a blank sheet of paper being instilled by Yayu with his own ideas. And Wohi Kodori, who was listening to everything through the headset, was very anxious, but there was nothing he could do. Even she had to admit that although Yayu said many things that were a bit extreme, this was an undeniable fact. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 386. I believe Yayu. As long as Yayu says it, it must be correct. Kodori was still hoping that Toa would recognize the trap in Yayu's words, but to her disappointment, Kodori seemed not to realize what Yayu's words meant at all. The girl just trusted Yayu's words unconditionally. Whatever he says is what he says. According to Kodori's words, she has been completely conquered and her favorability is 100%. So, why exactly? Even Yayu must have met the elf for the first time that day. Why does the elf trust him so much? Kodori couldn't understand, but Itsuka Shiori on the other hand said it very matter-of-factly. Didn't he say that he is also an elf? Because they are both elves, that's why they trust each other so much, right? How could it be so simple? Is my sister an idiot? If a man suddenly appeared and said he wanted to take you to see goldfish and eat lollipops, would you just follow him obediently because he is a human? What a strange metaphor this is. These are obviously two different things. Maybe these two elves are the only ones in this world? If they don't believe each other, who else can they trust? Is it true that they can always believe in each other? Her human being. Itsuka Shiori said this with a complicated expression, causing Kodori to fall into silence. After a while, the girl shook her head firmly. No. Impossible, how can there be male elves? All elves are female. Why are you so sure? Doesn't he also admit that he is an elf? Itsuka Shiori asked in confusion. Kodori's expression was flustered for a moment, and then the girl smiled to cover up the panic. Well, now is not the time to talk about these things. Anyway, No matter who he is, what he just said made him an enemy of the entire AST. I'm afraid he has also been included in the must-kill list like the elves, right? Kotori said this with a wicked smile on her face, staring at her sister, making the latter feel ominous. So it's up to you now, my dear sister. If there are some troubles in love between girls, then girls and boys don't have so many worries, right? Come on, sister, use your strength to take down Yayu. Hey, what did you say? After listening to what Kotori said, Itsuka Shiori suddenly let out a mournful cry. It was the second day since the elf came to school. After that, the elf returned to critical level, and Yayu did not come back. Looking at the ruins in front of him, Wilhi Shizi sighed involuntarily. I originally thought that elves are ignorant girls. If they can be guided well, they will not cause any harm to human society. But the appearance of Yayu completely shattered Wilhi Shizi's ideas. Not all elves are as ignorant as Toa, but they have existences that are equally powerful and rational. The only thing to be thankful for now is that at least Yayu is not the type who hates humans and wants to cause wanton destruction, right? From what he said, it seemed that he just wanted to gain the corresponding respect and status. But even if he is like this, asking someone to go on a date with him or something, Itsukawa Shiori looked like he was dumbfounded as he thought about this. Although Kotori keeps talking about dating, this is a clear hint that she wants to seduce him. What's the difference between this kind of thing, and selling my sister? Thinking so gloomily, Wilhi Shizi looked at walking along the ruins. Yesterday's space earthquake not only caused huge damage to the school, but also to the surrounding streets and shops. I originally planned to go to the market to buy some ingredients, but there were signs prohibiting entry on the road. Oh, is it prohibited to pass? But even if you don't have that kind of thing, you can easily know that the road is impassable. Because the asphalt roads were dug out indiscriminately, the walls collapsed, and even the mixed-use apartments collapsed. Just like after experiencing the war. Ah, here it is. I have an impression of this place. It was a corner of the space earthquake scene where the girl saw the elves for the first time. Maybe the revival troops haven't dealt with it yet. The tragedy of 10 days ago still remains. While recalling the figures of a man and a woman in his mind, he sighed slightly. Shixiang and Yayu. The two beings known as elves and disasters. Shizi. As if he heard someone calling him, Wilhi Shizi couldn't help but raised his head in confusion. Shizi, what are you looking at? Are you hallucinating? I seem to have heard Yayu's voice. How is that possible? Didn't Yayu and Shixiang leave together to return to the critical point? I said, is it because of what I said yesterday that you also regard me as an enemy? At this moment, the sound rang directly in his ears. The source of the sound was from behind. Wilhi Shizi was obviously frightened. When he looked back, he saw Yayu's smiling face. You, why are you here? Well, why can't I be here? I originally planned to go back to your house last night. But something like that just happened during the day, and I felt a little embarrassed, so I didn't go back. Hey, you didn't go back to the critical point. I'm not an elf. Why should I go back to criticality? I'm also trying to figure out a way to solve this problem and see if I can let Toa stay in this world. Hey, stay in this world forever. Yes, the main reason why elves are hostile to most people is the space shock, right? If they could stay in this world forever, this problem would not exist, right? Without space shock, Toa would be just an ordinary girl, that's all. Yes, that's true, but... Wilhi Shizi said this, and she was still a little curious about what kind of existence Yayu was if he was not an elf, possessing such great power. Yayu. I'm here. Wilhi Shizi wanted to say something more, but another voice interrupted her words. The two of them looked back together, looking in front of their eyes. On the mountain of rubble, A girl wearing a dress that was obviously inappropriate for the street stood there. Tou Xiang. Somewhat surprised and disbelieving, the girl who obviously caused inevitable space shocks every time she appeared in this world so quietly this time. How did you do it? Why didn't there be a space shock? Looking at the girl, Yu asked a puzzled question. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, BasedonanAnime Shang. Chapter 387. Why is it you again? Without answering Yu's question, Toa stared at Wilhi Shizi with a hostile gaze. That I was just passing by to buy something at the market. Feeling the strong hostility conveyed by the girl's gaze, Wilhi Shiori quickly raised his hands to show his innocence. The girl also felt that Toa's feelings towards Yu were very abnormal. According to Kodari's words, Yu has completely conquered Toa, and his favorability is at the maximum. And my task is to guide Yu, which is impossible no matter how I think about it. Not to mention Yu himself, let alone Shi Xiang, who was watching eagerly from the side. If he expresses his thoughts towards Yu, he will definitely be targeted by Shi Xiang, right? She seemed a little dissatisfied with Wilhi Shizi's answer. The girl rolled her eyes with dissatisfaction, and immediately threw herself into Yu's arms. Hey, let's go on a date. Didn't you say you wanted to go on a date with me yesterday? Ah, To Xiang, do you understand what dating means? Yu asked a little funny. Humph, of course I know what it means. Dating is like this, being intimate and going shopping together. Shaking Yu's arm, Toa spoke coquettishly. Ha, you can understand it this way, then let's go on a date. Oh. Date. 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 Looking at Shixiang, who cheered for joy, Yu couldn't help showing a knowing smile again. Maybe the other party just regarded this as a fun game, but no matter what, in this way, it's enough to make To Xiang happy. Then, that's what I said. Wilhi Shizi touched the tip of her nose in embarrassment. Standing here as if she were a third party, she had no idea what to do. You go with them. Just when Itsuka Shiori was thinking this, Kodari's voice sounded from the headset in his ear. Hey, why are you spying on me, Kodari, when I just went out to buy something? Who is spying on you? I just received a message from the crew, saying that there was a report of the presence of elves, so I hurried over. But even if you say that, how am I going to say it? If the two of them go on a date, is it possible that I have to intervene as a third party? Well, that's not something I can know. Anyway, just keep working hard. You must know that the two people in front of you can easily destroy Tiangong City. If you can't monitor and observe carefully all the time, what kind of accident will happen? What should I do if an incident occurs? Even if you say so. Wilhi Shizi looked at the two people in front of him as if he was about to cry, thinking about how to ask them to take him with them. Shizi, please come too. Yu took Toa's arm, looked at Wilhi Shizi's troubled expression, and couldn't think of what she wanted to say, and immediately smiled at her and invited her. Why? Shixiang seemed a little unhappy, but because it was Yu who sent the invitation, she could only accept it silently. Well, it will be more lively if there are more people, right Toa? Well, okay, then take her with you. Toa nodded slightly, and Itsuka Shiori spoke again. Wait a minute, are you going to walk out on the street dressed like this? Wilhi Shizi said, pointing to the other party's incredible dress of light. What's wrong with the clothes? Toa tilted her head strangely and looked at her extremely gorgeous clothes. It doesn't look like ordinary fabric at all, and it also exudes an inexplicable and strange brilliance. At first glance, you can tell that this is definitely not a product that should be available in the general market. The clothes are nothing. They are very beautiful, but they are too conspicuous. If those AST guys find out, I will be in trouble. Oh. Toa nodded understandingly, then what should we do? Change into something like her school uniform, Yayu said and pointed at Wilhi Shizi who was standing aside. Well, her clothes. Looking at Wilhi Shizi's clothes, the girl tilted her head and thought for a moment, then lightly snapped her fingers. Then, Toa raised her head slightly, and the strange dark purple light flickered again. Then the dress wrapped around Toa immediately began to dissolve in the air from the edge. Then, something that seemed to replace ordinary light particles stuck to Toa's body from all around and formed another appearance. A few seconds later, Toa stood there wearing the uniform of Raisin High School, like the female students of the same school. Dang, 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 the change is complete. Rotating her body triumphantly, Shixiang showed her beauty to Yayu. Ah! Yayu nodded stupidly. He could clearly see the dazzling white body that could not be covered up by the bright light at that moment, so he couldn't help but feel absent-minded. It's so beautiful, elf. What's wrong, Yayu? Your expression is so strange. Seeing Yayu's lost expression, Shixiang couldn't help but curiously came over and asked. Ahem, cough, it's nothing. Yayu looked away in embarrassment. Even if the other party didn't know how to deal with the world, she was a girl after all. She would never be happy about being naked by others, right? This kind of thing is still, it's better to hide it in your own heart. Yayu also looked around deliberately, but fortunately there were no pedestrians, and Shixiang's strange behavior would not cause panic to others. As for Wilhi Shizi, with a girl's eyesight, she naturally didn't see anything. Let's go on a date, Shixiang said happily, holding Yayu's hand again. Looking back at Wilhi Shizi who was a little embarrassed, Yayu smiled softly and then took her hand. Thank you, thank you. Lowering his head and making such a weak and inaudible sound, the three of them immediately left the ruins together. After turning a corner, the bustling street appeared in front of the three of them. What? The number of human beings is fighting with all their strength. Looking at the crowds and vehicles coming and going, Toa shouted in surprise. It was different from the fact that no one could be seen when taking shelter due to the space earthquake. The dense crowd on the street completely frightened Toa. No. Defensive measures must be taken, Toa said nervously as a dark purple light flashed on her finger. Hey, don't mess around. Wilhi Shizi stopped the girl dumbfounded, and couldn't help but secretly rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, he followed, otherwise he didn't know what would have happened. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 388. They are not enemies, they are just ordinary people. Not all of them are those monsters from AST. Itsuka Shiori tried his best to explain clearly to Toa, but Toa tilted his head and spoke curiously. What is that AST? AST are the guys who control strange things flying around in the sky. They are the enemies. Not all humans will be hostile to you, Shiori will, he explained patiently. Oh, so that's what it's like. Toa nodded to express understanding. It seems that she still needs to teach her a lot, at least this bad habit of hitting or killing her at every turn needs to be changed. Looking at Toa who lowered his head to express his understanding, Itsuka Shiori sighed and thought. So it was all those inexplicable words Yayu said at that time, about proving himself with powerful power. Thinking of what Yayu said yesterday, Wilhi Shizi couldn't help crying or laughing. But Toa finally let go of her hostility towards the pedestrians around her. This was my first time going on a date, and the first date was with 3 people, this was really an unenjoyable experience. Wilhi Shizi sighed there, and when the girl came back to her senses, she found that both Yayu and Tosiang were gone. Hey, what's going on? Wilhi Shizi, who was suddenly shocked, quickly looked around for traces of Shixiang and Yayu. You, don't scare me by disappearing suddenly. Seeing the 2 people standing in front of a bakery, Shizi hurriedly walked over. Good, it smells so good. What is this? The girl who was planning to play a blasting game on the busy street a second ago was now squatting down and drooling, looking at the bread in the cupboard. Yayu on the side had a funny look on his face, and Shizzy, who breathed a sigh of relief, also began to explain patiently. That's bread, a type of food. Very patiently explaining to Toa, an elf girl with no common sense at all, Itsuka Shiori knew that as long as she was guided and taught correctly, Toa would definitely be able to integrate into human society. Although what Yayu said was basically correct, Shizzy couldn't agree with it. So she has to teach the elves in her own way, and this is also her mission. Toa's fingertips moved eagerly, and her mouth twisted cutely. Then there was a strange sound, and Toa's stomach growled. It seemed that the elves were hungry too. Do you want to eat? Seeing Shi Xiang's appearance, Yayu asked tentatively. I want it. I want it so much, holding Yayu's body, Toa said with twinkling eyes. But, it seems like I don't have any money on me. Yayu dug into his pocket with some embarrassment. It was strange that he had money not long after he came to this world. Money, what is it? Ah, money is currency, which is something used to exchange with others. After all, bread is also something that others have worked hard to make. If you want to eat it, you must pay the person who made the bread, right? It was Itsuka Shiori who was responsible for the explanation. The girl took out her wallet as she spoke. I have money, let's go in and buy it. Oh yes, Toa cheered energetically, and then pushed open the door of the bakery. Remember to reimburse. I know, stupid sister is really stingy, she has to worry about such a small amount of money. This is our living expenses. Don't get me wrong. Do you still want to see snacks in the next few months? Hearing Hisoka Shiori threaten him with snacks, Itsuka Kotori immediately obeyed, and then Hisoka Shiori sighed and followed him into the bakery. Wow, it smells so good. After walking out of the bakery, To Xiang, who was holding a large bag of bread, said this exaggeratedly, and his saliva couldn't help but drip down because of the aroma of the bread. Okay, it was originally given to you, now, it's all yours. Itsuka Shiori, who was in charge of paying, said this and stuffed the entire paper bag in Toa's arms. Really? It's all mine, ah. The hostility in the eyes of the girl who was still slightly hostile towards Itsuka Shiori suddenly disappeared completely, turning into a light like a pet thanking its owner for the food, and then she took a bite of the exposed bread. The top of. Is this a date? I'm so happy. Letting out a sigh of contentment, Toa's little mouth made inarticulate sounds while chewing the bread. Ah, how should I put it, almost. Will he? Shizzy touched his head, looking dumbfounded. It doesn't look like a date at all. It's obviously a couple going out to play with their ignorant children. Ugh, Shizzy, what are you thinking about? Instantly blushing because of his delusion, Shizzy carefully stared at Yayu, looking at the other party's gentle look, and then he became even more shy. When the three of them left the bakery together, a girl's figure slowly walked out from the shadows. Tobiichi Origami. The cold silver-haired girl stared at the direction in which the two disappeared, and then slowly frowned. As Origami went to school and found out that classes were suspended, she had no choice but to return. On the way, she found Itsuka Shiori walking with two students. Not knowing exactly what they were going to do, Tobiichi Origami began to walk quietly. But soon, Tobiichi Origami discovered something terrible. The two people in front of him were the ones who caused such a bad situation yesterday. Women who are elves, and men who call themselves elves? Gently, muttering. Yes, monsters, anomalies, world-killing disasters. The guy Origami and the others were supposed to kill appeared together and seemed to have held Itsuka Shiori hostage. But, the strange thing is, why didn't they cause any damage when they appeared in the real world? Elves are called the disasters of the world. The reason why they have to be conquered is because of the destruction they caused to the world when they came. Since there was no space shock, maybe it was just ordinary people with similar looks? If there was only one person, perhaps Tobiichi Origami would think this way, but there are two people here now, and it is impossible for both people to look similar. No matter what, it's an emergency. Whispering softly, Tobiichi Origami pressed the button on the mobile phone on his body, selected a number from the address bar, and made a call. AST, Tobiichi Origami Ichiso. A-0613. Briefly describe your identification code and get to the point. If we find traces of suspected elves, we need an observation machine and arrange them around. Elves, the disasters in the world must be eliminated one by one. Don't worry, Sister Shizi. I don't know how they coerced you, but I will come to save you right away. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 389. Oh, can you choose what you want to eat from this book? After leaving the bakery, the three people who were walking along the way came to a coffee shop. Under Shi Xiang's strong request, the group of people walked in. Ah, yes. Wilhe Shizi nodded and answered. For some reason, the girl's voice sounded like she was about to cry without tears. Where's the soybean flour bread? There's no soybean flour bread. Toa muttered, seeming to have a deep resentment towards the soybean flour bread. No, this is a cafe, there shouldn't be anything like that. Speaking of which, I ate at the bakery so much. Wilhe Shizi's somewhat sad voice sounded. I want to eat it again. What is that powder? People who have a strong habit of letting it out into the world will cause great trouble. There is no doubt that people will tremble due to abstinence symptoms and start a war in search of soybean powder. Toa said so exaggeratedly, and Itsuka Shiori on the side could not help but start wiping sweat. I've said it many times, this kind of thing won't happen. That's it, well, forget it. Let's start trying new flavors. Toa quickly gave up her obsession with soybean flour bread and said so nonchalantly. Yes, anything is fine, but the total amount of money should not exceed 3,000 yuan. The relieved Wilhe Shizi sighed. Huh? What do you mean? Toa asked confused. I told you from the beginning, the importance of money in order to survive in society, that is to say, you just bought so many and ate them, so you have no money. Ah, how stingy. But there's nothing I can do. Wait a minute and I'll get some money. The words fell, and then there was the sound of getting up. Wait. What do you want to do? There was a tugging sound. Don't mess around, Toa. Yeah, you, please say something too, and then there is this Ogashiori's screams. Even if you say so, I am still troubled by not having money. I also want to get some money. Oh, sure enough, yeah, you also agrees with my approach. I didn't ask you to cause trouble. Hearing the conversation coming from the headset, Kotori sighed helplessly. Leave the order to you, it's an emergency. I understand and will start negotiating with the store immediately. Rain nodded lightly. In order to avoid Toa running to block the road and rob someone, Murasame Rain acted quickly. Then please. After saying that, Kotori took out the lollipop from his pocket and held it in his mouth. Wilhe Shizi looked at his wallet while looking at the bill. Fortunately, I had just enough money to avoid the tragic incident of being detained by the store to clean the dishes. If such a thing really happened, God knows what kind of trouble Toa would cause. Is this a date? Dating is really scary. Thinking this with a sad face, he was surrounded by Shi Xiang who looked happy, and Yayu who looked like he was watching a play. Shizi couldn't help but sigh again. Shouldn't the man take the initiative to take care of everything when it comes to dates, even though I know you really don't have money. At least it is fortunate that Yayu knows a lot about common sense things, otherwise she would not be able to stop two humanoid self-propelled nuclear bombs who want to block the road and rob them. Okay, let's get ready to go. Hey, are you leaving now? Well, when it comes to dating, it's boring to stay in one place all the time, isn't it? Tiangong City is such a big place and there are still many places we haven't been to. Yeah, that's true. Is there any other place with good food? Ah, maybe, there should be. Saying this with some reluctance, Wilhe Shizi immediately led the two of them to the cashier and placed the bill and 90% of the money on the cashier. Please pay, a feeble voice rang out, which sounded inexplicably familiar, as if it was Murasame Rain's voice. Thinking like this, Wilhe Shizi couldn't help but look up, and then almost screamed. Yayu was also slightly stunned, because the clerk standing there was Murasame Rain. Yes, please keep it safe. There were thick dark circles under his eyes, and he looked like he didn't get enough sleep. Murasame Rain handed the change to Itsuka Shiori. Hey, Lingian, you. Because he was so surprised, Wilhe Shiori almost shouted Murasame Rain's name. What's going on? Do you think this guy is an enemy? At the same time, Toa, who noticed Wilhe Shiori's embarrassed appearance, suddenly became vigilant and looked at Murasame Rain with a wary look. Obviously, because of the series of events from buying bread not long ago to buying food now, Toa has promoted Itsuka Shiori to a person whom she trusts second only to Yayu. I have to say that this girl is really easy to buy, and she falls for her after just a little food. No. It's nothing, Itsuka Shiori said hesitantly, feebly denying Toa's words. Wearing a very cute uniform, Xiao Xiang's Lingyan sat on his shoulders. His sleepy eyes glowed, staring at Yayu, as if he wanted to say something to him. So, where should we go next? He quickly turned his attention away from Murasame Rain. Toa was still so energetic, while Yayu glanced at Rain thoughtfully, and then looked apologetically at Toa and she. Knit opening. Well, I suddenly felt a little uncomfortable and wanted to go to the toilet. Toa and Shiori, you go play on the street over there first. I'll be there soon. Yeah, you, go ahead. There was nothing wrong with Toa, who nodded, and immediately pulled Itsuka Shiori, who had not yet reacted, out of the cafe. She is still a child at heart. Dating, falling in love, etc. are really things that are completely incomprehensible to her, right? Seeing Toa leaving with Wilhe Shiori without any scheming, Yayu shook his head in amusement. Such a scene was really emotional for him, a married person. You said it with such insight, it seems that Mr. Yayu knows a lot about this matter. Of course I understand it very well. You must know that my daughter is as old as Kodari. Yayu said this and immediately walked towards the toilet. Murasame Lingian was slightly stunned and followed immediately. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 390. This outfit suits you very well. This was the first sentence Murasame Lingian heard, who followed Yayu into the toilet. I didn't realize that Mr. Yayu is such a person. Murasame's voice was still speaking in the same cadence without any ups and downs. The girl looked vague and seemed to be falling asleep at any time. Well, this description may be a bit wrong. I am not a human being. Yayu said this with a smile, while Lingyan fell into silence. Sure enough, you are the most dangerous. What is your real purpose? Well, don't worry, at least I won't destroy the world. I'm not interested in killing people, setting fires, raping, and looting. I just want to get back what belongs to me. Retrieve your things. Lingyan was slightly stunned, unable to understand the meaning of Yayu's words. At this moment, the latter stepped forward, gently took the girl's hand and placed it on his chest. You know, I'm incomplete, I'm missing something, and I just want to get these things back. Yeah, you said this. Murasame Lingian raised her eyebrows slightly, and then spoke very rudely. If it's your heart you want to get back, then you may have found the wrong person. And I'm not a little girl, so I'm not that easy to deceive. Your methods are too old-fashioned. What Murasame Lingian said made you couldn't help but laugh. The reason why he said such words to Murasame Lingian was not without reason, because he felt it in the sick and exhausted girl in front of him. A strange smell. It was an indescribable feeling, as if the girl in front of him was a part of his existence. The same feeling was felt by Toka, Itsuka Shiori, Itsuka Kotori and even that Tobiichi Origami. Originally, you thought that the elves were his targets, but these girls with different identities made him doubtful. Why did I feel the same feeling in them? And some of them are even stronger than the feeling on Toa. You couldn't understand, and immediately stopped thinking about it. He had already made a decision to start with Shixiang first, and then slowly attack these girls. However, defeating Toa was much easier than he imagined. It seemed that he was not the only one who felt that way, but Toa and the others also felt that way. But something is not right. It seems that the Itsuka sisters, Tobiichi Origami and Murasame Rain have completely different attitudes from Toa. Tobiichi Origami even directly dislikes herself. Is it simply because Toa is an idiot? Although it was rude to think so, you felt that this was the reason. Toa really doesn't have any scheming, so that's why she trusts herself so simply, right? Go on with the date. We will assist you. Now the top priority is to work hard to capture Toa, right? Immediately after saying this, Murasame Lingian left the toilet, leaving Yayu alone. The latter shook his head gently, then walked out and left the coffee shop. Ha, everything is going according to plan. Looking at Murasame Rain, who returned to Fraxinus, Kotori Itsuka, the commander, said with a smile. Thank you for your hard work, Lingian. It's nothing, but I'm really not used to wearing maid clothes like this. Lingian sighed, casually lifting up the hem of the wrinkled uniform, and said in a tone that was not restrained. Be careful, you'll get away with it. Kotori rolled her eyes at Lingian angrily. Let's start planning now. Understood, Commander. That's right, what Kotori and Rain are executing at this moment is the combat plan codenamed F-08, and the combat name is Holiday in Tengu. For Ratadoskr, there are many useful battle plans to consider in various emergencies, and this is just one of them. This is a super plan that allows all members of Fraxinus to pretend to be ordinary residents and then provide support for 3 people's dates in the dark anytime and anywhere. Therefore, each crew member received a month of training. Actually the maid outfit is very cute, it attracts men's attention. Kotori took out her mobile phone while licking the lollipop. Really, after listening to Qin Li's words, Lingian couldn't help but tilted her head, remembering what she and Yayu had said. What does that guy mean? Do you really like yourself? Lingian is not an innocent little girl and will not be deceived by sweet words. She couldn't see through that man, so she didn't think he really wanted to tease her when he suddenly said these words to her. Who knows? Qin Li spread her hands in a very cool manner, immediately answered the phone, and began to issue various instructions and orders to the crew. Actually, Elf Toa's mood has been very stable. According to the commander, her favorability level is at the maximum. These things are actually unnecessary. Murasame Rain said this as she and Kotori looked at the picture on the surveillance screen. That's what I say, but it's also a good thing to cultivate the goodwill between my sister and that elf, and the most troublesome problem is not Shixiang, but Yayu. Murasame Lingian said this and was silent for a moment, then slowly spoke again. As of now, we haven't come to a conclusion as to what he is. No matter what he is, in short, his power is no worse than that of the elves. And compared to the more unstable elves, he is actually very safe. Biting a lollipop, Itsuka Kotori said this without confidence. It is said that Yayu is safe, but the girl is still fresh in the memory of the horrific scene he created and the words he said yesterday. If he is willing, he can freeze the entire Tiangong city in an instant. How powerful is this? There are really not many known elves that can reach this guy's destructive power. Well, at least for the time being, the situation is still very optimistic. Don't worry, even that you will eventually succumb to my sister's pomegranate skirt. Itsuka Kotori narrowed her eyes and said this confidently, and suddenly the girl spoke as if something suddenly occurred to her. By the way, I almost ignored AST. At this time, why don't you guys come out to cause trouble? AST should have no way of discovering her existence. After all, the opponent did not cause space shock when she appeared, Murasame Rain said. I hope so, continue to observe. Kotori waved his hand and ordered.